I think that is the bottom line, because if you want to use the law to fight corruption, then you are going to use the authorities. You are going to use the executive to put its foot down and say this must stop. Do we have a government that can do that? My doubts are there. But I want to say that I'm a little hopeful, especially if this gentleman is coming from the NGO forum.
Yes.
The work of the civil society is to create a civil society.
Yes. Some
society that can understand these issues. And I hope that the programs they are carrying out are not going to last for only 1 week. They are just going to go on. That when you create a civil society in Uganda, then you can talk about the mass rejection of the corrupt.
Mass rejection of the corrupt.
Mass rejection of the corrupt. If society continues to praise the corrupt, and they say, somebody has sent me a message and said, you know what, society is like that. They would say that Omwana of Fakoze in Uganda, Omwana of Fakoze,
our son or daughter, has worked hard. Brought home the national cake.
So we need really to get serious on all this.
Right.
But the first prayer in this is the government.
Yes.
And the government, I'm talking about all these institutions we are talking about. You have talked very well. You say, what are these institutions corrupt-free themselves? Is the police corrupt-free? And he has been talking about the police. Is the IGG corrupt-free?
Some people say they were innovative policemen.
Is the courts? Are the courts corrupt-free?
Yeah. Solution providers.
We need really to, the first prayer in this fight should be the government.
Okay.
And if it is the government, it should be the number one, the president.
Let's talk about the government. Right now, as we speak, a member of the cabinet, Honorable Princess Kabakumba Masiko, is accused of having stolen huge equipment from a ministry that she once headed. If government were to have the kind of will you're describing, what would happen, in your view?
Well, I know that what Princess Kabakumba Masiko has done is really despicable.
We don't even know. It's still being investigated,
but
so we don't know the certainty of it.
I would say that first of all, she must resign.
Maybe it's true. Maybe it's not even true. It's still being investigated.
Then we need to get information. Secondly, if it is true that what she has been using belongs to the public, they should write an invoice. That is what is going to teach our people that if you abuse office, you have a price to pay. They have to write an invoice to this company and should be held responsible. The third thing is that we should, all of us, condemn it. I was in Parliament today, and some members of Parliament are moving up and down with papers trying to correct signatures, and as we are saying, no, what you are doing, and they were telling foreign MPs, what you are doing is anti-government.
Oh.
If you feel, we still believe that fighting corruption is anti-government, fighting the thieves is anti-government, then we don't need that government.
All right. Mr. Larok, can you talk to us about what is going to happen during this anti-corruption, the kind of traction you're looking to catch?
Yeah. First, to give an overall sort of context within which these activities are taking place. You mentioned at the beginning that the crisis we have is impunity, which is explained in a way that there is lack of political will. Okay? Now, I think as civil society, we make many claims and assumptions about our positioning in society and creating the civic, population that we. Now, I think the lack of political will comes from somewhere, and we want to start, challenging every Ugandan citizen, whether it is a moral question, whether it is a lack of action, whether it is to build what can build political will, okay, is the question we are asking. And so the overall context, couched in a positive sense, a sense of hope rather than despair, is what we are trying to create. We are actually thinking that what is the problem is lack of social will to build that political will, because citizens are resigning, citizens are celebrating the corrupt, citizens feel like I should be there stealing our son, that I need to be there. Now we need to challenge that psyche, and I'm going to admit that in the context of Africa, fighting corruption is extremely difficult because of a cultural situation. Africans share.
Well, but President Sata has summoned his own son, told him to be questioned.
Yes. Now, Africans
Zambia
are, more communal than others. You might have read the book, The Two Publics in Africa. You know what it says? That Africa in the modern world is in an identity crisis. The average African, average Ugandan is in an identity crisis. What is this identity crisis? We have institutions that were foisted on us in a way. All the parliaments, judiciary, we've had hope in them. But also, so there is a public that is moderated by rules in these civic spaces. Then there is a public where the primordial exists, the tradition rules. And you know what happens? The logic that drives these two publics are different. An African typically leaves the primordial in the morning and goes to the civic to work. Now, what happens?
At home is a native.
Not native.
No,
not native. Native is a colonial language that, just sort of making Africans think native is bad.
Yes.
I'm talking about tradition.
Yes.
Tradition. Now, tell me, Edmond, we participate in things called wedding meetings.
Yes.
Barrio groups, Kalulu groups in the villages and others. We make savings. Have you ever in your life had any case of stolen money in those spaces?
Very rare.
I will even challenge you. I'll give you a prize. Look for it and tell me you have found that somebody has stolen money from a wedding meeting.
If your job is to look for them, you might.
You know what? Because the rule there, this is the social, the morality that drives that space is different. Now, this is African.
Yes.
We are saying it is possible. It happens in but when the same fellow goes to parliament, he steals. Why? He thinks that money is not theirs. It is money from somewhere else. Now, we must build on what we have. And that social will, we can rebuild it. And this is what we are making the case for. So what does the program look like? Forget about political will. I think our leaders have lost the sense of shame. Prince, I don't even want to say princess. I don't like to give people titles. I think Banyora will reject that in a way. Now, tell me what it is Ugandans must do. Okay? President has said, first we must make Ugandans fully understand that this guy you are celebrating, you are living in a shack. You are celebrating on a skyscraper in your neighborhood. It doesn't change your life. But the fellow is giving people some peanuts, and so everyone feels like, oh yeah, somebody in our village has stolen me. That's a good thing. Now, we want to tell Ugandans that attitude helps you no more.
Right.
We must isolate every single leader that is corrupt. If Kabakumba went to, I don't know whether I'm pronouncing the name well, but nevertheless, whatever you are calling princess.
She's still a suspect?
Yes. No. She must resign.
You think so?
When you are a suspect,
like Ssebugenyi did.
Because you are holding public office. You are holding, it's not your private home. Right. She might not be chased from her home, but this is public office. She should step aside and you come back in a renewed way,
right, if
actually you are proven innocent. So, tomorrow, we have an anti-corruption convention,
yes,
that is convened not by NGOs. They are senior statesmen and women,
right,
that have called on other Ugandans. All of them are above 60.
I've seen the list.
And they are
professors, honorables, doctors,
and they are living in their evening of their lives. But they want to leave a country that their children are going to enjoy.
Right.
They are calling upon different groupings. We will have youth tomorrow. We are going to have women, the women's movement. We are going to have professional organizations. We are going to have parliament. We are going to have workers. We are going to have farmers that work in agriculture. You know what we are asking every group?
Yes.
Let us not lament. Come with action,
right,
so that we begin to hold one another. Next year we meet, we want to ask these guys, what you made the resolution, what have you done?
All right.
Please.
Okay.
So this is the spirit with which the entire move is being organized. And unless I can come back to Radio 1 next time and say, Edmond, this is what I did, I do not want to come back.
Things have changed. Do you think we should have graduated tax so people get a connection with their pockets and the state?
You are familiar with the Citizens Manifesto. We made a passionate call that it was such a mistake
to take away
graduated
tax. People don't think
there must be a connection. There is a strong connection between taxation and good governance. One of the reasons people feel go and steal money in parliament is because it is not they think it is not their money, even when our governments borrow on behalf of the people. So it's actually your money. I think Ugandans must be a bit more responsible, not only G-tax, but fair taxes, so that Ugandans own this country. At the moment, it appears they don't.
Mr. Ssebugenyi, let's hear your view about government will. Do you have the government will to fight corruption?
The government will is there, but the question is the effectiveness. That's what everybody is questioning.
The spirit is willing, it's only the body that lets it down.
The systems have been set up, the institutions are there, the anti-corruption court is there, the IGG is there, the DPP's department is there. The question is, are they doing their job effectively? I'll give you an example. The perception among the citizens of this country is that there is selective prosecution. It's a perception and people feel it. So those are some of the things we need to start working on. Avoid selective prosecution. The other thing I'll mention is, if you decide to withdraw a case which is of public interest and of a high-profile person, at least have the courtesy of explaining to the public why you've done it in a little bit of further and better particulars because of the particular circumstances. It is a right to withdraw the case, but those are some of the things which start creating an atmosphere that you can get away with it. But one of the other things I want to mention is that the Ugandans need to understand that we have now a situation where we have a nuclear canister which is being plugged by a plaster.
What is that?
Basically, we have a situation which needs to be dealt with. And that's the reason why, as civil society, particularly organizations like mine and the Uganda Law Society and the NGO Forum, we feel we owe a duty. Ours is even mandatory and statutory to educate and assist the public on matters relating to the law, educating the public on matters of the law and how they should deal with matters which are against the law. Without people understanding, I will tell you, under the Anti-Corruption Act, nepotism is part of corruption.
Yes.
But do our citizens know that? They don't. And these are some of the things we want to ventilate during this anti-corruption week. The menu on anti-corruption crimes is very big.
Defining
but
corruption.
Do our citizens know it? These are some of the things we want to ventilate.
All right, this is Spectrum on Radio, and you can call
Edmond, I wanted the president of Law Society.
Let's hear from the listeners. Our numbers, 041-4348-111, 0312-260390, 0312-261-390. Spectrum, hello?
Hello?
Yes, sir, your name?
Yes, my name is Sinje.
Yes.
I started those gentlemen in the studio. Point number one is we don't have any good government. We don't have ways in the government to fight corruption. Because you look at these examples. You find somebody who is stealing a chicken in the village is being taken to the police very fast. You find somebody who has been caught red-handed with something for the government is left just scot-free. Yeah, in fact, he is able even to contribute to parliament and come and arrogantly talk of ABCD. Now, don't you think people will have to think that maybe we don't have that moral authority of fighting corruption? Let us not apply the law selectively. I thank you.
Spectrum, hello?
Good.
Yes, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening, your name?
Edmond, my name is Jimmy. I'm calling from Bunga.
Jimmy, yes.
I thank you for your guests in the studio. Now, this story about corruption is long. Some of us who have been able and blessed to live more years than the regime that is there now, 26 years old, know that they could have been bad leaders previously, but they were honest and true, serving to Ugandans. In fact, if you check the books, they did not steal anything that you can even talk about. The other day there was a documentary about Amini's brother on NTV, living in a shack. It was very touching. Two, one MP who is sitting on some committee was saying a section of Ugandans are not thieves. He was quoted to be in the context of being sectarian. Now, 26 years down the line to date, we have seen what has never been precedented before. Recently, you had some former ministers or ministers currently, even a PS, I think, of Treasury or thereabout, saying some compensations, for example, have been done and blessed by one man, the Almighty in Uganda. Now, for me, my prayer is one, that if Ugandans can wake up and know that whatever is going bad around them is just because of one man, then we can have some sanity. I applaud the effort of the coalition groups like Mr. Larok is talking about. But if we continue in the same circumstance with our peasants being fed on leftovers around the table because their son is sitting with a high man, I think we are missing the point.
All right. Spectrum, hello.
Hello, Mr. Edmond.
Yes, sir, your name?
Edson.
Yes, Edson. Can you switch off your line? Walk away from it.
Yes, please. So, Mr. Edmond, I want us to know that when somebody is caught into a corruption scandal, however, he has not been proved guilty, that person must step aside to pave way for investigations. It doesn't mean that that person has already been proved guilty, but he is proved guilty after all steps, of course, have been followed, and he is found guilty. That person can still be chased away. I think we should investigate before we say things right. We should get those people who do in corruption scandal away with the government.
Okay. Spectrum, hello.
Hello.
Hello, your name?
Hello.
Hello, your name?
Yes, sir, Edmond. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. Your name?
I salute you and the guests in the studio. My name is Samuel Rao of Amuria. Now, Edmond, I would like to request us to look at corruption in a bigger context. A number of us seem to be pointing all our fingers at, you know, the type of the political corruption that we see around. But I would like to draw your attention to what is happening at the implementation level. You know, there is a lot, even the little that goes down is being misused, and nobody is talking about it. Do we know how much money is lost at the implementation level, that is at the sub-county? We are only focusing about this political corruption at the national level, but we are not rolling down our eyes to that grassroots corruption, which is actually directly affecting the common man, because even the money that the government budgets for and it is sent to the district is misused by the leaders at that level, and nobody is talking about it. We are all talking about the mass. I mean, it is the right time, it is the high time we began focusing so much on the grassroots corruption, because to me, that is very, very important. The drugs are being stolen not from the center. The center releases the drugs, but the drugs are being stolen at the health center trees.
All right, let's get back to the studio. Mr. Ssebugenyi, President of the Law Society, you can respond to the questions.
Yes, I agree with the last caller. I didn't take his name properly, but I agree with you. There are so many facets of corruption prescribed under the law. I'll just give you a few examples. Influence peddling, nepotism, sectarianism, false assumption of authority, like it happened in Kawempe. We have threat of injury to persons employed in public service. We have embezzlement, causing financial loss, false accounting by public officers, and I'll just mention the last one, false claims by officials. These are some of the areas which touch on corruption, and I agree, we should address all of them. Let's not only think about the big boys who are stealing from the country.
Mr. Mayanja.
Well, I think I tend to agree with most of the callers, but what I wanted to bring out, I think we need really to, many of the politicians are insulated. They are those that you cannot even take to court.
What do you mean by that? Is there one that you can cite?
Oh yes, the president can never be taken to court. According to the law. Yes. So I'm saying, can we reform the law? That way, even if you are the president, and you are a sitting president, but there are scandals that are getting into your office, then you must be investigated and you must be charged. This is happening in Italy. They are using it.
But if your gardener steals from you, why should you be charged? Why not the gardener?
Well, if you are the guy, this is your gardener, you can't handle him, and you are continuing to protect him. You are part of the game. So I think that's what I wanted from the President of the Law Society. Is there, have you done research? Have you consulted widely in other countries that even a person who is not supposed to be taken to court, because the president cannot be taken to court, can we reform our laws and remove that impunity?
Mr. Larok.
Yeah. Now, tomorrow, we will be re-emphasizing a few things. At Grand Imperial Royal,
the one near the Serena.
Yes, yeah. Please come. Don't be frightened by that space. Come, because we are going to have very good messages that we hope will revive. Now, a few things I need to say as we conclude. At individual level, every single citizen within their capacity has the ability to reject corruption. You don't need anything anywhere. You can reject it. But stopping to be part of the collusion. Every single citizen in this country can decide not to be part of the elite conspiracy and collusion to rob this country. You don't need any facilitation for that. You just need to have national pride. We need a government and a leadership that will take stern action. I am not shy to say that leadership we don't have in the government at the moment. Ugandans must realize that. If we had a government that acts on corruption like the Chinese one, I do not think, because you know what that means? The woman who died in Mbale because doctors refused to treat her because they asked for money and she did not have every right to live a life. So if you are going to do that, I think you should take responsibility. Now, I think
take them to the Queen's Tower.
Maybe we need stern action. We need stern action.
No,
we don't want to violate. We don't want to violate people's right to life.
Yes.
But we need stern action.
Then the others will learn a lesson.
Yeah. Finally, citizens must. A question that Samuel raised. I agree with most of the other callers. Samuel raises the point about grassroots is as corrupt infested. I don't necessarily agree, because I think the logic that drives how we live in our homes is a bit different from the public space, like I tried to make earlier. Now, I agree that corruption is everywhere, but policy is made somewhere, and that action must be. There's a saying that fish starts to rot from where?
From the tail.
The head.
You sure about that? Have you done research on that?
So I think grassroots is the tail. I think fish starts to rot. I think you don't eat fish. You know that.
Go on.
Now, fish starts to rot from the head. Now, if President Museveni and all those we see in government were having the moral and exemplary leadership, these facets we see elsewhere would not. You know why? Because action doesn't take place where we elect all these people and they don't take any action. Everybody thinks, I can get away with it.
Right.
And everybody today spends their time defending all you see what is happening in parliament.
Yes.
So we must then put our leaders that we elect and spend so much of our money maintaining this to act.
All right.
We have no choice about that.
Because somebody has said that corruption is worse than prostitution. Prostitution destroys the individual. Corruption destroys an entire society. We have to end media, thank you very much to our dear guests, Mr. James Mukasa Ssebugenyi, President of the Uganda Law Society. Thank you for coming to Spectrum, sir. Mr. Arthur Larok, Director of Programs at the National NGO Forum. Thank you very much for coming over.
Thank you.
Mr. Vincent Mayanja, Deputy Secretary General of the Democratic Party. Thank you for tuning in. I've been your host, Edmond.
It has been a pleasure.
Spectrum will be back tomorrow. Up next is the news in English. Please do stay tuned.